Kuphi emakhaya amadolobheni asecomplex takhona sesifikile ke thina emavulandlela ke sawubona ke mbukeli and sesifikile thina ihlelo Yilungelo Lakho to your right sinethela ke mamba phambili SABC 1 Mzansi for sure sakata ke isikhathi sinye na ku SABC la high and SABC plus mina ke ngiSimphiwe Ncongwane bekunene indzaba yethu ke namhla ibhekene netinkulungwane tebafundzi labasokolako ukutfola isito lekukhokhela tifundvo tabo imifundzate noma ke ama bursary noma ke ama scholarships ngendzaba yokuthi abati ukuthi baye kuphi. Let's get straight into it to look at other sources of tertiary educational funding opportunities. Every year, thousands of learners qualify for their tertiary studies, but they never make it through, not because they are not capable, but because they don't know how to fund their future. Papa Machanga Tube ukhulumeke nalomunye wabafundzi labafuneke letinye tindlela tekutfola imfundvo.
Funde UJ ngifundele accounting for diploma ngifunde ngo-NSFAS for i-advance waphela NSFAS cause second ngifundisile then bekunzima ndazama ukukhangela i-bursaries ndakhangela online ndayithola i-TDP sita but zininzi i-bursary ndandizaplayele and then ndathola i-email ngoFebruary ethi congratulations nditholele ibhasari ndandingakholwa because ndingumntana wasezilalini ngingakholwa ndandilila ngingabelieve but ibhasari yenza impilo yami yabalula because beningena stress benifunda kakuhle because beningena stress soba i-school fees nosibhatalelwa ngibani ukudla nizokuthatha because mama makasebenzi like bengekho umuntu bezongisupport financially. Allowance yi-120,000 per student. So mnityala lami lali 95,000 lase UJ. So i-95,000 yaphatala UJ for accommodation and tuition fees. And then 5,000 athenga stationery, 20,000 bekuyi allowance, food allowance bekhona 2,000 engenayo every month. Yeah, so nandiyitholile ndingumntana wasezilalini from disadvantaged family. So now ngayithola so applyani.
Sibonga lo umbiko manje kukhuluma kabanti ngendzaba yethu ke namhla sesimukele Unathi September lomeleke iGradesmatch siphinde sibe na Sphiwe Masuku lovela enhlanganweni lebitwa ngikuthiwa yiFundi. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Afternoon to you too.
Sibonga kakhulu buthi. Siyabonga kakhulu ke Sphiwe ngicela ngawe ke ukuthi njengoba sesivile ke lapha kudzathe wethu I think indzaba that affects just about every other student.
Yes.
Lack of knowledge. Abati ukuthi baye kuphi kunetinhlobo futhi temifundzate ke khona ama scholarship khona ama bursary khona ama student loan or ama study loans khona nabo NSFAS and uthola ukuthi inhlangano letsite offers one particular source of funding and uthola ukuthi sebayajika ke labanye bafundze ngoba bangadi ukuthi kumele bente njani. Maybe just take us through what Fundi is all about nekuthi ke ibasita kanjani ke labo bafundze labangadi ukuthi kumele bente njani.
Thank you. So Fundi is a fund financial specialist in the education space, and we also specialize in fund management and also student support. And from a student support perspective, we offer your Fundi Connect, as you mentioned earlier on, that some of these students don't have information about bursaries, what to study and all of that. So our Fundi Connect platform assists exactly with that. In addition to that, on the Fundi Connect platform, there's also Fundi Match that assists them to actually align their passion to a specific career. So you do an assessment, take it like a survey, where you talk about your abilities and all of that to get to what potential careers can you venture into. And speaking to the funding gaps again, so we offer study loans. Our study loans are there to help you pay for school fees, registration beginning of the year, because we have a lot of our students and parents who are always frustrated and trying to gain access to the institutions, but because of registration funds, they are not able to do that. And we also, your tuition, your accommodation, your laptops, devices as well. So we offer study loans.
Okay.
Yes.
Yini study loan and usitwe kanjani ke ne scholarship ne bursary?
Yes, so a study loan, you are borrowing, you come to us and you're saying, give me your money and I'll pay you back. As a scholarship and a bursary is someone who will come to you or a company that will come to you and say, I want to invest in you so that you can come and give value back to me. So let's say they give you a bursary for 3 years, you go and study at UJ as she mentioned earlier on, and as a return to that, you go and do service with them for a couple of years. It varies according to organizations. Same as a scholarship, it's money that you are given to upskill yourself, and there's not really repayments of some sort, but a study loan, you are borrowing money to pay it back.
Okay. Now, Unathi, now that she shed light on the difference or the distinction between study loans, scholarships, and bursary, now the real problem becomes which institution offers what. Ngoba ke letinye tinkampani utfola ukuthi they only offer scholarships, letinye tinkampani they only offer study loans and so on. So how does Gradesmatch assist students in terms of just dispelling some of the myths with regards to the distinction between the sources of funding?
Ngiyabuleka kakhulu Simphiwe. Mhlawumbe apho sinoqala khona singathi yeyiphi kahle imicelimngeni abathi abafundi badibane nawo xa becinga ngoba ndizawuhamba ndiye kwiziko lemfundo ephakamileyo.
Yes.
Okokuqala bazawucinga ndingayifumana phi inkxasomali. Bazawucinga ngoba ngawaphi amakhondo endizawuthi ndikwazi walandela ngaloo mini mhlawumbi ndizawuthi ndikwazi ukuphangela. Okwesithathu, ukuba ndiyalandela elikhondo ndizawufuna na umsebenzi. Kwelethu icala ku-Gradesmatch sisebenzisana kakhulu nabafundi ukuthi sithathe zonke iinkcukacha ezidibene nenkxasomali namaziko emfundo aphakamileyo ukuze umfundi akwazi ufumana wonke ndawonye. Xa sicinga ngomfundi mhlambi ofana no-Unathi ofuna ufundela izifundo zobunjineli, ngalo mbuzo ufumanayo ufumana phi kahle? One, funding. Where do you get the understanding of the qualification requirements? Gradesmatch is that platform that brings together all of that information in one place. Xa ucinga ngawo ucinga njengomthombo wolwazi okuhleli kwindawo enye apho khona ndizawukwazi ufumana xa ndizawuya eVets, UJ, UP ndizawukwazi njani na ufumana inkxasomali. Inkxasomali uyifumana njengoba sechilo sisi, it can be a bursary, it can be a scholarship. Nangona lo magama siwasebenzisa njengesithetha ndonye awathethi into enye.
Yes.
Xa uthi ufumana ibhasari kulindelekile ingakumbi kwinkampani ngenkampani uba uphinde ubuyele uhambe uyoxelenga khona okanye uba uthe waqhawula eso sivumelwano sakho nalo msebenzi uthe wakunika imali ufuneka uphinda uyibhatale. Xa sewuhlawulile hayi ke ungahamba uye kuloo ndawo ufuna uxelenga kuyo. I-scholarship sona maxesha maninzi it does not have the obligation for payback. And kakhulu sixele kwabo bafundi bathe mhlambi bagqwesa kwizifundo mhlambi bathi bagqwesa nakwezemidlalo. Kakhulu ke ngoxa sijonga ba singazifumana phina inkampani zabucala Allen Gray, SAB uyafumana kuzo zonke ezinkampani uba banawo lamathuba enkxasomali. And xa ukwazi ucela eso sicelo okanye ufaka isicelo senkxasomali uyakwazi ungena ke kule platform ethi Gradesmatch okanye Bridge app.
Okay. So leto tinkampani leto is there a way of finding out ukuthi ke ngitiphi tinkampani that offer what? Maybe company A offers a scholarship, company B offers a bursary. How do I get the knowledge?
Sure. So sinenhlahla enkulu kakhulu ngale mihla esiphila kuyo kuba sesiphila nobuxhakaxhaka. Umfundi ose university, umfundi ose high school, uninzi lwabo lunazo cellphone. Right?
Yes.
So we need to start using our cell phones for the right reasons. Xa ukwazi ungena on a platform like Bridge app, uyakwazi ukhangela zonke iinkampani ezinxulumene nelikhondo ufuna ulandela. Uba ufuna ulandela engineering, uba ufuna ulandela izifundo zobugcisa, uba ufuna ulandela izifundo zenkcubeko. Xa ukhangela apho ku Bridge app, baza kunika zonke ezinkampani ezinxulumene nezifundo ezofuna uzilandela. Mandikwenzele umzekelo kule nyanga lesikuyo uza kuphela kule nyanga kaTshazimpuzi Allen Gray Orbis Foundation uyaphelela. Nyanga elandelayo kaCanzibe Sasol bursary nayo iyaphelela. Zonke ezinkampani uyakwazi usifumana in what we call aggregators because that's what Gradesmatch and Bridge app is. But umfundi nayo uyakwazi uziyela emnatheni akhangele nje ngo-Google search akhangele uba zeziphi iinkampani ezinikeza ezo nkcukacha ezinxulumene nenkxasomali yomfundi xa esiya kumaziko emfundo ephakamileyo.
Right. Hayi asishiye lapha ke bukeleke sisitshela ngasetitolo. Please do join us after this break. Leli Yilungelo Lakho. Masibuya sitokhuluma nalabanye ke bafunzi lamaphupho okuya university. Siyakomola futhi ngibukela icingo tethu setivuliwe ke manje ukuthi nawe ungabe ingcenye yenkulumo yethu namhla ungashaya licingo khona la e-studio ku-011-714-0672 ungasithumela futhi na WhatsApp ku-060-844-9857 or email your thoughts to consumer@sabc.co.za noma ke usithole ku-Facebook. Kepha ngaphambi kokuthi ke sichubeke nenzaba yethu asisive ukuthi ke labanye bafundi bathini.
Sengicedile uku-applya. I've actually got a few tips from previous matric learners, and our funding, I know of NSFAS, which can be the best.
Besengqalile uku-apply, and then so far the funding options that I know about, I only know about NSFAS. I'm not aware of other funding options.
I'm going to go and apply for universities, but I do have a sponsor that is going to be sponsoring my university funds. Source of funding that I'm going to use is NSFAS, right? And I'm not aware of other funding institutions for the youth.
I have started applying already through NSFAS. That's the one that I'm aware of as of far, and I'm ready for the university level.
But from what I know, there are also some problems that come with NSFAS. So I was looking into other bursaries that would offer me if it so happens that I meet the requirements.
And I guess that is the conundrum for so many of the learners. Kutsike abati kutsike yini le offerisha ini ikakhulukazi ke sivile ke most of these learners bathi i-NSFAS kuphela. So maybe with that regard, Sphiwe ngicale ngawe nje yini ke i-qualifying criteria for iFundi student loan?
So before we get to that, maybe let's break down from an NSFAS perspective before I give you our Fundi criteria so that it's understandable the space that we're playing in. So your NSFAS aid is covering people that are below the 350,000 Rand household income. And we often talk about the missing middle. So your missing middles are your police officers, your teachers, basically your government employees. And if you look at that group of people, they're actually above the 350,000 to 600,000 threshold. They are not rich, they are not poor, but they can maintain their lives. However, they cannot afford to pay for their academics at university level for themselves and for their children. So a qualifying criteria or the Fundi target market basically is in the missing middle. You call them government employees. If you're a permanent government employee and you are earning between 2.5 after deduction and upwards, you can qualify for a Fundi loan. Provided also you're not under debt review, obviously, because we do your affordability assessment so that, you know, we don't give you what you cannot afford to also sustain your life. So basically, if you are in South Africa and you have a quotation from an institution, any institution that's accredited in South Africa, and you're a government employee, or you have a guardian that can take the loan, because we need to emphasize the fact that you need someone to repay back the loan for you while you're studying. So that's why it's a loan.
Okay, maybe if you could maybe emphasize, you only target government employees only? No,
so not only,
you do give considerations
so
to
80% we target government employees. However, we do have 20% of our business that is in the private corporate. And the criteria there is that we need to have a corporate agreement where we are able to facilitate a salary deduction for the loans, because the other thing about us is that we don't give those funds back into your bank account. When you apply with us, the funds go to UJ. The funds go to the accommodation vendor. So same as your corporate employees, we treat them the same. So your private company will go into an agreement with us. We always open throughout the year to go into those negotiations, and all the employees can come to us and apply for our study loans for themselves and for their children.
So what costs do you cover? I mean, tuition, food, stationery?
So we are for education, and holistically so. We cover registration. Let's start with the registration. Because if you don't register, then you don't have access. You are not going to start that academic year. Then while you are studying, you're also required to pay the tuition fee for the course that you're enrolled for. But that's not all. You know, you need someone is relocating from Limpopo to Joburg. That person or that student needs accommodation. So we do play in that space where we also give out a loan to pay for your accommodation. we give out a loan to also take for your devices. You know, we spoke about connectivity earlier on. He mentioned about the fact that we have smartphones. What happens to those that don't have, you know, smartphones that can access other platforms? Like you need a laptop to look at the lecture slides. So we do give loans to cater for your laptops, your phones if you don't have any, and the list goes on, including the tools. I mean, some engineering courses have tools that they need to buy, the pegs, the lab kit and all of that. As long as it's educational related, you can come to Fundi and we'll be able to assist.
Okay. Now, Unathi, let's talk about the timelines. If, for example, saying at a grade 12 margin, matric, what are some of the funding deadlines that I have to grapple with?
Yeah. Mhlawumbe Simphiwe singagqithanga kakhulu kulomxholo kaNSFAS.
Yeah.
Nangona ekhona amagingxigingxi njengoba omnye umfundisi etshilo. Our government has allocated more than 50 billion rands of funding to students. And that is from the public sector. Nangona kunjalo, xa ujonga izinga neqondo the fees, like the fee structure over the last decade. So from 1920s until now, the fees have increased by 340 plus % year on year, right? So when you're looking at that, it's not enough. So xa sisithi le mali kaNSFAS ayilingenanga abafundi bonke, zeziphi ke ngoku ezinye iinkalo abafundi abangakwazi uzijonga. So xa ujonga private funding, right? Iinkampani zabucala kunyaka mali ophelileyo have allocated more than 600 million rands in bursaries. So those deadlines obuza ngazo are allocated and aligned with the private sector funding that this country's corporates have allocated throughout. So deadlines also cinga ngazo zohlukile ngokweenkampani ngeenkampani. Now, as I've mentioned, in the first half of the year, you have the early starters like Allen Gray's, Sasol, and then you'll get the June ones. Xa ufikelela phakathi enyakeni, you'll get the 30th of June, the 31st of July with the old mutuals, and then you get the net banks, and then you get aggregated funds as well towards the end of the year. So kubalulekile kakhulu ukuthi umfundi angene emnatheni ukuze akwazi ujonga deadlines ezohlukahlukeneyo, because there's not a single deadline of different private institution fundings. You understand?
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. And speaking of which, maybe as a school, the different funding mechanisms.
Sure.
Does it matter where I study? Say college, a private college, or TVET college, or university? Does the funding work differently depending on where I am?
It does. So let's look at public funding. So xa umfundi efaka isicelo mali, right, and esifakela iziko lemfundo ephakamileyo, like a public institution, it's likely that only the public funding, like a NSFAS, would fund a public institution, right? And then you start to get the private funders that they would fund both the private institutions and public institutions, like how a Fundi would do. And then you get TVET colleges that are primarily funded by the state. So a CETA may be funding a TVET college, and you'd find that government level, at a provincial level, there are other bursaries allocated to abafundi abahlala kwezo provinces bahlala kuzo. And then you get philanthropic funding. Philanthropic funding could be in the form of a scholarship. A scholarship may not have an obligation to pay back. And majority of those can fund across. They can fund a private institution, they may fund a public institution as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does your funding mechanism work differently, Sphiwe, when it comes to TVET colleges, private colleges, and so on?
No, it doesn't work differently. So we fund both private and also public universities, but also reflecting on what he was talking about in terms of the gaps and when to apply. So we also facilitate the recruitment of the students for different bursaries. For as much as we are a loan provider, we do have a fund administration portfolio that will look into recruitment. So you come to us as a corporate and you say, I have 600 million, as he mentioned, and I'm looking for students in the engineering space. We will source, because obviously on our database, we do have students that are coming to apply for different courses and their data is existing. We will source for you the caliber of students that you want. We will do the interviews. We'll send you the list of the students. We will also go as far as taking the funds and allocating to the students on a monthly, bi-weekly, according to how you want the process to run. And also do the reporting, because it doesn't end there. Sometimes we give students funds and we say, go and conquer. They won't conquer, they need additional support in between. Psychologically, for some of them, the move is big and they need someone to hold their hand, and we also do that.
Okay.
So,
all right. On that point, I want us to continue after the break. For now, let's take another commercial break. Ungasanyakati siyabuya khona manje. Welcome back, everybody. Kumbula ukuthi incingo tethu solotivuliwe ukuthi ke nawe ngabangengcenye inkulumo yethu namhla. You can call our participation lines in our studio right now on 011-714-0672. You can also send us a WhatsApp to 060-844-9857. Ungasithumela futhi ne-email ku-consumer@sabc.co.za, or alternatively interact with us on our Facebook page. Let's take our first caller. Sinamambata ukhona la eJozi. Siyakomulo ehleleni, sawubona mama.
Yebo sawubona mfana.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila nami.
Khuluma nathi mama.
Yebo ngithi nginomzukulu owenza grade 9. Ubefisa ukuqhubeka ezifundweni zakhe aze ayaqeda ugrade 12 bese ezayaqhubekela e-university. Ubefisa ukwazi ukuthi ningakwazi yini ukuthola ama-bursary mhlawumbe angamqhuba from grade 10 next year aqhubeka aze ayofika ka-grade 12 bese aqhubeka-ke nento akafisa ukuyifundela.
Okay, all right. No, siyabonga kakhulu kumbuto wakho mama. Sichubeka ulalele i-SABC 1 Yilungelo Lakho. Dinintetfu ke taxi kulelo hlangothi. And I guess that's one point that we missed. Reporting kumele ngasicale ngalo vele ukuthi sifunda ini, nifunda
from what level?
From what level to what level?
Yeah. Lambuzo ubalekile kakhulu. Xa ujonga umfundi oku grade 9, okokuqala funeka sizame ukukhangela uba ufumana phi na okanye ulifumana phi na ulwazi malunga nalamakhondo afuna walandela kuqala. And that's where Gradesmatch come in first. So career guidance when you are in grade 9 is about subject choice selection, so that when you get to grade 10, any funder that would then fund you post that would be able to fund you according to the allocation and criteria abanayo. So uba umfundi okokuqala step 1 gradesmatch.co.za kulapho khona uzawukwazi ufunda ngoba zeziphi subject funeka ngiqale ndikwazi uzikhetha enzela uba kuminyaka emithathu elandelayo ndingene ku-Bridge app so that I can find then these bursaries esithetha ngazo. Then thereafter I can go to Bridge 1, because like that parent is talking about a student journey now.
Yes.
I can get to Bridge 1, which is another product of Gradesmatch that helps students when they're in university for psychosocial support, tutoring and bursary support as well. Right, so klambuzo ba uqala kwephi na ufando zikhona inkampani zabucala ezinayo inkxaso mali eqala as early as grade 6. And as you are on the platform, you get to understand based on my grade and my grade outcome, where am I going to get that funding? And again, I'm mentioning Alingray probably for the third time. Alingray is one of those bursary funds that start as early as possible for abafundi who are in primary school going into high school as well.
So Gradesmatch inayo in a database of some of these companies that offer funding from as early as matric level.
Correct. So not only a database, because again, mhlambe ngamanye amaxesha sisebenzisa isithetha ndonye. The personalization of that data is what's important. Ngoba uSimphiwe who would like to study journalism no Unathi ufundela isifundo zobugqirha ngabantu abohlukeneyo apho. So it's not just a database, it's a personalized recommendation based on your interests and also based on the institution that you're going to follow. Ibalekile kakhulu lo ndawo enza uba singathi abafundi mabaye on an aggregator and then I'm going to see a list of A to Z. That's not helpful, because we're dealing with information overload, and when we start to break down the information according to the person's interest, that's when I'm going to know la mfundi oseThekwini uzawufumana ulwazi olunxulumene kanye kanye nelikhondo afuna ulandela, nala maziko emfundo aphakamile afuna yakuwo.
Alright. Mambata siyabonga kakhulu ke kusishayela. Sathemba ukuthi usitakele kulo hlangothi. Khumbula ke ukutshela ke umtukulo wakho ukuthi ke angene ku is it
www.gradesmatch.co.za for a student who is in high school grade 9, 10, 11. www.bridgeapp.co.za for a student who is in matric trying to apply for bursaries and Highland Institution for academic year 2027.
All right, Mambata, thank you so much for your call. Now, speaking of psychosocial counseling, does Fundi have such? Because I would imagine, we are from disadvantaged backgrounds who don't necessarily have the know-how in terms of adapting to a new city, new environment, and so on.
Correct. So, in the 30 years that we've been in existence, one of the things that we've learned as a company is that funding alone is not enough. And as mentioned earlier on, the student support, is such a vast topic because we're talking about someone who might have trauma just moving away from home, or they can have mental breakdown the first week they are in the institution. So we do have partners that we partner with that will allow us also, because we have a national presence, to be able to assist those students when they are in need. And also it also comes from the partner or the bursar also. Yes. At what level are they willing to support them? In addition to that, they can do psychosocial support. They can also do soft skills training. They can also get mentorship. They can get a professional mentorship, or they can get peer-to-peer mentorship because of the database of students. Someone is in Cape Town. I can relate better and grasp the content with my fellow peer more than with the professor. So, it happens because the scenarios are different. So, yes, to answer your question, we do offer.
All right, great stuff. Good to hear that. Let's take another caller. We've got Diana in Germiston. Very good afternoon to you. Thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Afternoon, how are you?
Very well. How are you, ma'am?
I'm good.
Talk to me.
So mina ngicela ukubuza ukuthi ngiyamufanda umntana ofuna ukuyenza mhlawumbe uqede i-grade 12 ufuna ukuyenza i-pilot. Ngiyamufanda umntana onjalo.
Okay, before they answer, ingabe uyithole khona le institution lapho ayithole khona indzawo ngoba kumele aqale afune indzawo lapho atawufundzela khona, and then you approach ama funders. Khona lapho umntwana akho ayithole khona indzawo yokufundza as ukufundzela kuba pilot.
So yes, the guy told me so only to find out if he didn't get a sponsor or a funding.
Okay, all right. Siyabonga kakhulu umbuto wakho. Please tune in. Batakusita ke labo ke lesiba invited namhla. And I guess it speaks to the broader question ukuthi ke what are some of the genres or fields or disciplines that you particularly emphasize on in terms of funding? Ukuthi ke ufuna kuba pilot. Ingabe ke lawo ma disciplines lawo ke niyawafunda?
Yes, so career choices are such a personalized experience, and all of us have different aspirations in life. But in addition to that, we also have passion, things that we are passionate about. Yes. Hence, we also help or assist and aid them to make decisions that align with their passion. And we cannot say no when you come to us and say you want to be a pilot. We cannot say no to you when you come to us and say, I just want to be an actor. Because, passion also, and it's a personalized experience. If you follow your passion, you never work a day.
Okay. So
we do fund every discipline, be it from being a teacher, you just want to learn how to DJ, as long as the institution is accredited and you're going to have something to take out there in the world to qualify you for employment, or you're going to become an entrepreneurship because now you are qualified, you become an expert in that field. Definitely we do.
And then kulama course lamasha, say for instance, for example, AI or data analysis. So do you focus on those as well?
Quite interestingly, now we get people that want to do short courses because I have my degree that I've done or my honors that I've done, 10 years ago. With how things and, it's changing, transformation, technology and all of that, it's becoming redundant as the year goes. And how you can kind of, uplift that is to take short courses. And those short courses include AI courses. It includes, customer journey experiences in some level because that also has evolved on its own. So yes, we do short courses, we do digital courses as long as it's accredited with an institution that's accredited, because the last thing you want is to take a loan and go and study something that's going to be useless, that you cannot provide to, secure your next employment, or you cannot use to get your promotion at work because it's not valid.
Yes.
So it has to be an accredited institution,
Yabona-
no matter what the course is.
Abona uzenenye ke manje, that point in terms of redundancy or a course that will be useless in the next few years, please hold your thought. I want us to tackle this a little bit more after this break. Ngiyathemba ke nawe usitakele ke make Diana umtshele umfana wakho ukuthi ifundi yona ke yeah, and as long as Leo institution is accredited within the laws of South Africa, they will definitely fund your child. Thank you so much for your call. Mbukeli Sphinze futhi sishelele ngasetitolo hlala kanye nathi siyabuya khona manje. Leli lungelo lakho. Our participation lines are still open for you to take part in this all-important discussion. Ungashare licingo khona manje la estudio ku 011-714-0672. Our WhatsApp line is 060-844-9857. The numbers are on your screens right now. You can also send us your views or your suggestions, your questions to consumer@sabc.co.za or interact with us on our Facebook page. We've got another caller. In Pretoria. A very good afternoon to you. Nomsa in Pretoria, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Siyaphila kunjani mama?
Ngiyaphila wena kunjani?
Siphilile mama, khuluma nathi mama. What's on your mind?
Yeah, kuthiwa mina ngistakile umntwana since she passed matric by 2024. So she didn't apply at university due to APS score. The APS score is 21. So I'm trying she must go to school, university. I just start with but I'm unemployed currently because I can't afford the fees from university.
Okay,
So
all right.
my question it was how can you assist maybe with something like that?
All right, Unathi from Gradesmatch is there to assist you. Unathi.
Thank you so much. Xa sijonga umfundi okhangela indawo yofunda, sikhangela, as Umama rightfully said, APS score.
Yeah.
And that point admission score tends to be a barrier to entry if you don't have enough information. That's why it's important xa uqalayo unyaka uyahlela, ndithi umfundi lona matriculated 2024, xa uqalayo unyaka uyahlela uyatsho uba zeziphi izinto endifuna uzifundela, right? And then we check, do I meet the requirements? And if I do meet the requirements, how many applications am I going to put up across the country?
Oh, okay.
So sincedisana nabafundi, even those ones with 21 APS points, to say where is the match? And we're saying this student is from Gauteng.
Yeah.
It's highly likely that their exposure is only within Gauteng. And that student with an APS score of 21 potentially can qualify at CUT, can potentially qualify at another TVET college in the Eastern Cape, another TVET college in Northwest. And part of that aggregated information is to ensure that umfundi ngamnye uyakwazi ufumana ithuba lokufunda, and it doesn't matter at what level. It could be at a TVET level, it could then be at a diploma level, it could be at a degree level, njalo njalo. So step one, again, uqala ungena emnatheni, bridgeapp.co.za, and then ufaka iinkcukacha zakho. Xa ufaka ezaa nkcukacha uzawufaka that matric certificate etshoyo uba nge-subject nganye ndifumene ii-marks ezinga, and then that match through that algorithm starts to spit out how many institutions am I going to apply for. Not only institutions, but also for the funding opportunities as well. That's part of the career guidance journey that happens before an application automatically goes to various institutions through that one single input from that student.
Right. And then lomnye kutatibuta uthi ingabe le APN score improve kanjani?
Yeah, it's actually quite a fascinating calculation. So 15 odd years ago, there were about 4 to 5 ways to calculate that APS first. 10 years down the line, we're seeing that there's more than 54 ways to calculate that APS.
Yes.
Meaning that the answer that I will give on improving may vary according to the institution, and within that institution, it may also vary according to the qualification.
I see.
If I want to go and study at UCT, for example, I'll have multiple ways of calculating that APS score. Kodwa apho izawuphuma khona, uba ndifuna kunyaka olandelayo to improve, zininzi indlela enokwazi ukwenza ngazo. One, I can go to upgrade the specific subjects that are dropping my APS, okanye uba andi-upgrade, then I need to find an alternative institution that I will meet its requirements. But upgrading is one of those opportunities that urhulumente wethu akwazileyo usinika ithuba about i-second chance program. And zezinye zeenkqubo esebenzisana nazo kakhulu second chance by the Department of Basic Education ethi inike ithuba lesibini kumfundi ongakwazanga ukufikelela kwinqanaba athi mhlambi ubenqwenela ufikelela kulo ukuze akwazi ufaka isicelo kwimfundo kumaziko emfundo ephakamileyo.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, we've got another caller. We've got Khalalet Sang from Hammanskraal. Very good afternoon to you. Welcome.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Very well. How are you?
I'm good.
Talk to me.
I wanted to ask if the nurses fund postgraduate diploma.
Please ask your question again.
I wanted to know if the nurses fund postgraduate.
Okay, all right. Our guest will definitely answer you. Please tune in.
All right. Umbuzo osuka kumbukile khaya buza. UNSFAS uyakwazi na uhlawula postgrad. The short answer is no. So the National Student Financial Aid Scheme is meant for undergrad. However, the state has other entities that are postgrad oriented. So whether I'm doing honors, masters, PhD, we have NRF that students can apply for. Inkcukacha zika NRF zifumaneka directly within each institution. But we also have the private funding as well that is philanthropic in nature, meaning that I might not be required to pay back. Ezinye zazo, it's actually the Nelson Mandela Rhodes Scholarship. Naso esikhangela abantu okanye abafundi who are at postgrad level now, abafunayo ukuqhubeka nezifundo zabo. And that's the balance that we always need to bring about in this type of conversation, that we also have postgraduate students that are looking for funding. And that actually is one of the biggest problems that we have as a country. Like, how do we fund postgrad students, not only from a private perspective, but also from the public sector as well. So when you're looking at provincial funds, you'd find that there are those that are looking at the level at a postgrad level, and then you look at the CETAs and other government-related entities that are looking for postgrad students. I want to mention this one as well because we always forget in these conversations. Yes. For students who want to study internationally, some of the government initiatives over the years that have been underutilized are the scholarship for international studies. And you'd find that when a country like South Africa signs a bilateral with another country, there's this education portion that between South Africa and Hungary, a student will be able to go and study paid for by the state. Ibalekile kakhulu leyo indawo ngoba sinabafundi abaninzi abahleli emakhaya abangayaziyo ba for postgrad studies ndingakwazi uya njani na.
So if it's paid for by the state internationally, is it a scholarship or is it
that would be a scholarship?
A scholarship.
Yes. That would be a scholarship. Yeah.
So Sphiwe, where does Fundi stand in terms of my postgrad?
We fund all the way through. So we do give out postgraduate loans.
Oh, okay.
So if you want to become a professor, we're here for you.
What about international schooling?
We, at the moment, we don't do international.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay, you know, just local.
Yeah, just local.
All right. Yes. All right, Mbukele sithi shilela ngasetito lesithathe carefully reflecting ngci. Please do join us after this break. Yilungelo Lakho, don't go away. Welcome to our very final segment. If you've just joined us, namhlanje sikhuluma about the different funding opportunities, nemehluko emkhatsini kwe scholarship, ne bursary, ne study loan, ne student loan, nema learnership. Kuthi ke yini lokumele kuthi ukwadi with regards to what institution offers what funding opportunity. Namhlanje we've got guests from Fundi and as well as Gradesmatch. It's a very, very heartwarming conversation and a very, very important conversation if you are a student or you are a parent that has a student who is in matric getting ready to make that application to tertiary education. Now, Sphiwe, just before we wrap the show, earlier on we're just talking about some of the potentially redundant causes that we should be on the lookout for. Maybe nangabe ngenda i-cause kuthiwa-ke itaba redundant next year. Do you also look into those?
So We do provide guidance, obviously, and we do communicate this, especially, you know, when you're having your open days, when you're having your careers days and all of that. But the short answer is, in South Africa currently, we are short of STEM careers. And with that being said, I mean, your engineering and all of that, because we have a funding gap, it's quite expensive than all your humanities courses that everyone wants to do. So just to give you an example on our loan book, we are funding a lot of the teachers. 41% of our, you know, customers are teachers, followed by the police, followed by the nurses. So if you think about it, all these people, when they go and study these careers, they know they're going to be placed. But then to what extent and what is the volume now, the group, can we accommodate the entire group? Because now all of us want security, you know, and safety to find a job quick. So we need to move also the perspective, going back to what Nati was saying, that they need to decide on the subject when they are still in grade 9. Because if you are going to take subjects that are not going to gear you up for an engineering course to go study overseas and become a doctor or a specialist, then we still have this problem. So with the partnerships and relationships that we have with institutions, when there's an open day, obviously by then you are in first year, you have applied, it's quite too late. So we are trying to catch you while you're still in high school. We're trying to catch you while you're still choosing your subjects. With our Fundi match also, that they can, you know, download and then purchase and then do the assessment themselves, and obviously with a bit of guidance. So we do look into those and we do share those information.
Then nangabe ngiyitfolile ke indzawo ke ngatfola ne approval ye learnership or scholarship from iFundi. How fast is payout? Like if fees are due next week, can Fundi move that fast within that period?
The interesting thing about, you know, partnerships, obviously for us to, you know, operate in this ecosystem or in this environment, we have to have relationships with the institution. We have to have the relationship with the student. So contractually also with our SLAs, we know that if you're applying with UNISA, UNISA understands that if you get an acceptance letter from Fundi, we clear you up, you're good to go. UJ as well, UJ understand that the payment will be done, you know, after so much business days. You get your letter, off you go. So with us, it's about, you know, the synergy and the relationships that we have with all the institutions, private and public. Once you come to us and you're approved, you're good to go. You don't have to wait for the 2 week and panic. Once you're approved, access is granted. And success awaits.
Now, unathi ke asasikhulume ke nge-order, ngicala ngeku-apply e-university ngitfola indzawo noma ke ngicala ngekufuna umfundzate scholarship.
So ibalekile kakhulu ke ngolenda sisaya kuyo ngoba as we said, there are myths and we need to dispel some of the myths. Xa ufaka isicelo kumaziko emfundo aphakamileyo, that's step 1, right? So you can apply first. That's how we proceed. So you apply to a tertiary institution, and then what we then do, we also apply to funding opportunities. But in terms of getting that approval from an institution, that acceptance, you don't need an acceptance letter to apply for a bursary or a scholarship first. That normally comes throughout the journey. Ziyohluka ke njengoba bendichilo ndithi we have more than 5,000 students, for example, were funded last year by corporates. Corporate nganye iyohluka uba, do I need the proof of acceptance during the process, or do I need the proof of acceptance when the academic year starts? So one by one with all of the institutions, kubalekile kakhulu uba umzali nomfundi akwazi uzifunda zeziphi izinto ezibalulekileyo, even the sequence kwicandelo ngalinye afaka kulo isicelo senkxasomali nesicelo eso sasusa kumaziko emfundo ephakamileyo.
All right, let's take a look at some of the WhatsApp messages that you've been sending us, asking questions. We've got a message from Anonymous who says, at what grade must we start to apply for a bursary? My daughter says she's going to grade 11. Another one, Connie Lamini says, I'm asking for the bursaries for geometric engineering or companies who can help, asking about bursaries for geometric engineering. We've got another one. Do you have any other messages? Yes, we do. We've got a message from Anonymous who says, can I get a number of funding my tertiary studies? All right, let's try help some of these messages.
Okay, kulula kakhulu kwelethu icala. Sinemiyalezo emithathu enqamene ngqo no-registerisha on Bridge app, because if you want to study for geomatics first, you need to understand what is geomatics.
Yes, yes.
And then post that, we can match you with the institution that offers geomatics. Post that, then we can then apply for the funding related. Ezinye zezinto esizibonayo eziyimicelimingeni kubafundi mhlambi ngamanye amaxesha abawazi nokuwazi lamakhondo abawabizayo. So the career guidance component is very important. And then we can also go to like, how do I then start that application? Because some of them are quite complex. What documents are required? I might be requiring an ID. I might be required to submit my report for grade 11. Most institutions bazawufuna a report ka grade 11. I might be required to submit my proof of income if I'm applying for a bursary, or I might be required to submit any of my proof of address for geolocation to understand like where do these applications come from. So if I'm going to bridgeapp.co.za, all of those 3 messages can actually be answered based on each personalized individual pathway.
Okay. And I know that, this amount of documents, I mean, it's just a document overload. It can sometimes trip the application process. Yes. And let's talk about some of the non-negotiables when it comes to a checklist.
So the non-negotiables for Fundi, first one is the quotation. So you've gone through the process as Unathi was elaborating that now you accepted, you know what you want to do, you're confident this is the course I want. We need the quotation that will outline exactly how much your fees are. We also need you to complete an application form, which you can also, start the process online. And we also need salary advice of the parent or the guardian that is sponsoring. Okay. Those are non-negotiables, because the rest of them, we get as the process go along. You can submit them online, you can send via email and all of that.
We are out of time, unfortunately, but great chatting to you. Thank you so much for this beautiful discussion.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alright, kwanye lombukeli sesifike emaphethelweni nehlelo lethu namhlanje. Ngitsengibonga ivakashi lethu ngesikhathi sabo. Ngithanza bonke kanye nani ke babukeli kuba nathi kuze kube ngimanje sihlangane futhi eviki letako lapho silandulethela ke lenye indzaba litawutsinza nine emalungelo enu njengebathengi. Please note ukuthi ke onke lama details will be posted on our Facebook page in terms of onke lama details ema funding opportunities or the institutions will be posted on our Facebook page. From me Simphiwe Ncongwane and the rest of the team, nisale kahle, wishing you a great week ahead. Cheers.
Yilungelo Lakho.